In a distant galaxy, a human soldier named Captain John Branson had been sent on a mission. His orders were clear: to reach a small alien village on the planet Verdun and help them. This village was home to the Xerians, a peaceful alien race known for their kindness and wisdom. But recently, they had sent a distress call, and John was the closest human who could respond. As his spaceship approached the green planet, John peered down through his cockpit window. Verdun looked beautiful, with lush forests, flowing rivers, and towering blue mountains. However, there was also a sense of danger in the air. The distress call had warned of an unknown enemy threatening the village. John landed his ship just outside the village, on a grassy hill. When he stepped out, the Xerians stared at him in awe. Standing around 8 feet tall, the Xerians had long, slender bodies covered in soft, silver fur, and their large eyes sparkled in different colors. John had never seen creatures like them before. He gave them a friendly wave, hoping they understood it as a gesture of peace. The village leader, an elderly Xerian named Zira, stepped forward to greet him. She spoke softly in their language. But luckily, John's translation device picked up her words. "Welcome, brave human," Zira said, her voice trembling slightly. "We are grateful you came. We need your help desperately." John nodded, sensing the fear in her eyes. "What's happening here, Zira? Who is attacking you?" Zira explained that strange beasts had recently appeared near the village. These creatures were nothing like anything they had seen before. They had thick, scaly skin, sharp teeth, and moved quickly through the trees. They called them the claw beasts because of their huge claws that could tear through anything in their way. The claw beasts had destroyed their crops, scared away their animals, and even attacked a few of their people. John listened carefully, already forming a plan in his mind. He knew he had to protect these gentle creatures. "Don't worry," John assured Zira and the villagers. "I'm here to help. I'll set up defenses around your village and take care of the claw beasts." He spent the next few hours setting up traps and sensors around the village. He placed motion detectors near the outer trees, hoping to detect the creatures before they got too close. He also taught some of the younger Xerians how to use basic weapons, though he knew they didn't have much experience with fighting. The Xerians were peaceful by nature and avoided conflict whenever possible. As night fell, a thick fog settled over the forest. John stood on guard, his weapon ready, scanning the trees. The village was silent, with everyone hiding inside their small dome-shaped homes made of woven leaves and branches. Suddenly, a loud guttural growl echoed from the forest. John tensed, his eyes sharp. A claw beast emerged from the shadows, its yellow eyes glowing with hunger. The creature was massive, with dark scales and sharp, curving claws that gleamed under the moonlight. Without hesitation, John aimed and fired a warning shot. The sound echoed through the forest, and the beast paused, its eyes narrowing. But instead of running away, it charged forward, angered by the noise. John braced himself, keeping his aim steady. When the beast was close enough, he fired again, hitting it in the shoulder. The claw beast howled in pain and staggered back, but it didn't give up. It lunged forward once more, and John knew he had no choice. He fired a final shot, hitting the creature in its chest. With a loud thud, the beast fell to the ground, motionless. The villagers peeked out from their homes, their eyes wide with fear and amazement. They had never seen anyone stand up to a claw beast, let alone defeat one. But it wasn't over yet. 2 more beasts emerged from the forest, their growls filling the air. John quickly adjusted his stance, ready to face them. This time, he used the traps he had set earlier. As the beasts moved forward, one of them triggered a net trap and was lifted off the ground, thrashing and growling in frustration. The other beast hesitated, and in that moment, John took his chance. He fired, hitting it directly. The beast fell, and the remaining one, still tangled in the net, struggled but couldn't break free. After ensuring all was safe, John lowered his weapon. He looked around and saw the villagers gathering near him. Zira stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Thank you, brave human," she whispered. "You saved us all." John nodded, feeling a sense of pride. "You're safe now. I'll keep watching over you tonight, just in case." The Zirians cheered softly, their voices filled with relief and gratitude. For them, John was no longer just a visitor. He was a hero who had protected them in their time of need. The special thank you. After the long, tense night defending the Zirian village, Captain John Branson finally took a deep breath. The claw beasts had been defeated, and the village was safe once more. As the sun rose over the planet Verdun, the Zirians began to emerge from their dome-shaped homes, relief and joy lighting up their gentle faces. They gathered around John, their tall, slender forms towering over him, but showing only gratitude in their sparkling eyes. The village leader, Zira, stepped forward. Her silvery fur shimmered in the early sunlight, and her eyes, which changed colors with her emotions, now glowed a deep, thankful blue. "Brave human," she said, her voice soft and respectful. "We are forever grateful. You saved us from the beasts, and now our people can live without fear." John smiled humbly, waving off the praise. "I just did what I came here to do," he replied. "I'm glad you're all safe." But Zira was not about to let him go so easily. "No, you deserve more than our words. In our culture, we show our gratitude through a special ceremony. Please, join us for a feast as our way of saying thank you." John was a bit surprised but honored. He hadn't expected a reward, but the idea of experiencing the Zirians' culture was intriguing. He nodded. "I'd be happy to join you." Zira clapped her hands together, and the other Zirians began to cheer softly, their melodic voices filling the air with a peaceful harmony. She led John to the center of the village, where the Zirians started preparing for the feast. John watched as the villagers worked together, setting up long tables covered in colorful cloths made from woven plant fibers. He noticed that every detail was carefully arranged, from the bright lanterns that the villagers hung in the trees to the large platters of fruits and vegetables he couldn't recognize. The scents were strange but delightful, a blend of sweet, spicy, and earthy aromas that made John's mouth water. As he sat down, Zira took a place beside him, while other Zirians brought out more dishes. Some of them were round and bright yellow, while others were green and shaped like small stars. John could tell that this was no ordinary meal. Each dish was a delicacy meant for special occasions. He felt honored that they were sharing it with him. "Please, eat," Zira said with a smile. "These are the finest foods of our land." John took a bite of one of the star-shaped fruits, feeling a burst of sweet, tangy flavor that was unlike anything he'd tasted before. The Zirians watched eagerly, their faces lighting up as he enjoyed each dish. He tried a few more foods, amazed by the variety of tastes and textures. As the feast continued, the Zirians started singing a soft, rhythmic song. Their voices blended together, creating a melody that seemed to echo through the trees. John felt himself relaxing, letting the music and the peaceful atmosphere wash over him. It was clear that the Zirians put great value in showing appreciation, and he was moved by the effort they were making to thank him. Then one of the younger Zirians, carrying a small wooden box, approached the table. She offered it to Zira, who nodded and turned to John. "In our culture," Zira explained, "it is a great honor to receive a gift from our people. We do not give gifts often, only to those who have earned our deepest gratitude." She opened the box, revealing a small glowing crystal. It was pale blue, with a gentle light pulsing from within, like a heartbeat. John looked at it in awe. He could tell this was no ordinary item. The Zirians watched him with warm, eager eyes, waiting for him to accept. John held out his hands, and Zira placed the crystal gently in his palms. The crystal was surprisingly warm to the touch, and he felt a strange connection to it, as if it was alive. "Thank you," John said sincerely. "This means a lot to me." Zira smiled, her eyes glowing with pride. "You are a part of our story now, brave human. This crystal is a piece of our history, a symbol of trust. It is our way of remembering those who protect our people. John nodded, feeling a deep sense of honor. He realized that this was more than just a feast. It was a ceremony of respect and trust. The Xerians had accepted him as one of their own, a protector and friend. The feast continued with more songs, laughter, and dancing. The villagers showed him their traditional dances, their long limbs moving gracefully in time with the music. John even joined in, much to the amusement of the Xerians, who laughed and clapped as he tried to follow their steps. As the celebration finally came to an end, John felt a warmth in his heart. He had come to Verdun on a mission, but he was leaving with something much more meaningful: the friendship and trust of an alien race. Holding the crystal close, he knew he would always remember this day and the kindness of the Xerians. When he finally left the village to continue his journey, he felt a deep bond with these gentle beings. Their gratitude and the crystal he carried would remind him of this unique thank you, forever etched in his heart. Unexpected gifts. Captain John Branson had only meant to stay with the Xerians for a short time after the feast, but every day the kind aliens surprised him. The morning after the special thank you ceremony, John woke up early, ready to continue helping the villagers however he could. As he stepped out of his tent, he was greeted by a group of young Xerians, each holding something in their hands and looking at him with excitement. Xera, the village leader, approached with her usual warm smile. She gestured to the young Xerians. "Captain John, our people wish to show their gratitude to you in a way that is special to each of them. We bring you gifts that hold great meaning in our culture." John was touched but a little overwhelmed. He had never expected so much kindness. "You've already done so much for me with the feast and the crystal," he said. "There's no need for more." Xera shook her head gently. "Our people believe that true gratitude must be shared openly. Each gift tells a story of trust and friendship. Please, accept them." One by one, the young Xerians stepped forward, each offering him a unique item. The first gift was a set of small, polished stones, each with a beautiful blue-green shimmer. The young Xerian who gave them explained, "These stones come from the deepest rivers of our planet. They are said to bring calmness and courage. We give them to warriors who protect us." John accepted the stones, holding them carefully. They felt smooth and cool in his hands, and he couldn't help but smile, feeling honored to receive something so special. "Thank you," he said, his voice full of sincerity. "I will keep these stones close." The next Xerian, a tall young girl with large violet eyes, offered him a simple but intricately woven bracelet made of soft plant fibers. "This bracelet is a symbol of unity," she said shyly. "Our people wear them when we feel connected to someone special. I made this for you." John gently slid the bracelet onto his wrist. It fit perfectly, and he could see the careful work she had put into making it. He nodded at her, feeling grateful beyond words. One by one, the gifts continued, each one telling a small story. He received a carved wooden figure shaped like one of their guardian animals, a creature with 6 legs and feathered wings that symbolized strength. Another Xerian offered him a small bottle filled with a glowing golden liquid from a rare flower that only bloomed once every few years. Xera explained that this liquid was used in their healing rituals and was precious among the Xerians. As John accepted each gift, he realized that these weren't just items. They were symbols of the Xerians' trust, a way of including him in their community. The gifts told him he was no longer just a visitor. He had become someone they cherished and respected. Finally, Xera herself stepped forward, holding a small folded piece of cloth. When she opened it, John saw a handful of tiny seeds. "These seeds come from our most sacred tree, the Mirai tree," she explained. "The Mirai only grows in our village. If planted, these seeds will grow a tree that lives for centuries and holds memories of those who care for it." John was taken aback by the significance of her gift. A Mirai tree was rare and valuable, something that connected deeply to the Xerians' way of life. "Are you sure you want to give these to me?" he asked. deeply moved. Zira nodded, her eyes soft. You protected our lives, Captain John. These seeds represent the future of our people. They are a reminder that even when we are far apart, a part of our village will always be with you. John carefully took the seeds, feeling their delicate weight in his palm. He promised himself that he would plant them somewhere safe and remember the Zirians with every new leaf that grew. As the day went on, John spent time with the villagers, learning more about their customs and stories. He helped them repair homes and set up better defenses, ensuring the village would be safe in the future. The Zirians shared their knowledge of the plants and animals around them, teaching John how to understand their unique world. By evening, as he prepared to leave, the villagers gathered around him, their eyes full of gratitude. The young Zirian children tugged at his sleeves, asking him when he would return. John, though he couldn't make promises, smiled and said, "I will come back when I can. Until then, keep protecting each other and your beautiful village." Zira stepped forward one last time, placing her hand on his shoulder. "Captain John, you are now part of our people. Wherever you go, remember that the spirit of the Zirians goes with you." John's heart felt full as he looked around at the gentle, kind faces surrounding him. He realized that his journey to Verdun had given him more than just a mission. He had found friendship, trust, and a sense of purpose that he would carry with him forever. As he boarded his spaceship and lifted off, he watched the village grow smaller below him. The bracelet on his wrist, the crystal, and the seeds in his pocket were all symbols of this unforgettable experience. With a deep breath, he whispered to himself, "Thank you, my friends. I'll never forget you." An invitation to stay. Captain John Branson thought his time on Verdun was coming to an end. He'd said his farewells to the Zirians, and his ship was ready for departure. But just as he was about to take off, a familiar voice came through his communicator. "Captain John," Zira's soft voice called. There was a sense of urgency in her tone that caught his attention. John paused, opening the communicator. "Zira, is everything okay?" "Yes, Captain. But we wish to speak with you one last time before you leave. Will you come back to the village?" Curious, John nodded, even though she couldn't see him. "Of course. I'll be there shortly." He powered down his ship, leaving it secure, and made his way back to the village. As he approached, he noticed that the entire community had gathered again. They seemed to be waiting for him, their eyes filled with a strange mix of hope and warmth. Zira stepped forward to greet him, her expression serious but welcoming. She gestured for him to sit on a soft patch of grass at the center of the village. The Zirians circled around him, their eyes fixed on him with admiration. "Captain John," Zira began, her voice strong and clear. "Our people have gathered to discuss something important. We've been talking since the feast, and we've come to a decision." John raised an eyebrow, both intrigued and slightly nervous. "A decision? About what?" Zira's eyes softened, and she gave him a warm smile. "We want you to stay, Captain. We would be honored if you would live among us, as one of our own." John was stunned. He hadn't expected this at all. "Stay, you mean? Live here with you?" Zira nodded, and a soft murmur of agreement rose from the crowd. "You have shown us kindness and bravery beyond words. You protected us from danger and respected our ways. You understand our people, and we believe that you belong here as much as any of us." John was deeply moved. In all his years as a soldier and explorer, he had never felt such acceptance. The Zirians weren't just grateful for his help. They truly wanted him as part of their community. But as much as he felt honored, he also knew his duty called him to other missions and worlds. "This is beyond anything I imagined," he said slowly, his heart full. "But my work requires me to travel, to protect and help others across the galaxy." Zira nodded, understanding. "We know that your heart is drawn to adventure and duty, Captain John. But if ever you feel the need for rest, peace, or a place to call home, know that you are welcome here. You will always have a place among us, A feeling of warmth and belonging filled him. He had spent so much time on missions, always moving from one place to another, rarely finding a sense of peace. Here, with the Xyrians, he felt something different, a sense of family. One of the younger Xyrians, the girl who had given him the woven bracelet, stepped forward shyly. "Captain John," she said softly, "we would like you to have something else, a key to our village." She held out a small metal pendant shaped like a leaf, engraved with intricate Xyrian symbols. John took it carefully, turning it over in his hand. The pendant felt solid and cool, and he could sense the craftsmanship and care that had gone into making it. "This pendant," Xyra explained, "is a symbol of our home. As long as you have it, you will be able to return to us, no matter where you are in the galaxy. It will guide you back to Verdun." John was amazed. The Xyrians had developed advanced technology that he hadn't expected from their simple way of life. The pendant seemed like a small thing, but it held great power. It was their way of keeping him connected to them, even if he was light years away. "Thank you," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "I don't know what to say. I feel honored. I never thought I'd find a place that felt like home, especially so far from Earth." Xyra and the villagers smiled, their faces glowing with joy. "You are family to us now, Captain John," Xyra said gently. "Whenever you need a place to rest, we will be here." The Xyrians sang a song in their soft, melodic voices, and John closed his eyes, letting their peaceful music fill him. The idea of staying on Verdun was tempting. He imagined a life among the Xyrians, free from the constant battles and missions. Here, he could find peace, but he also knew that he had responsibilities beyond this quiet world. As the song ended, John opened his eyes and looked at Xyra. "I will come back," he promised. "Whenever I can, I'll return to visit." Xyra's eyes sparkled with understanding. "Then we will await your return, friend. Until then, may the stars guide you." With a final nod, John rose to leave. The villagers watched him with a mixture of pride and sadness, knowing he had to go but hoping he would one day come back. As he walked away, the pendant felt warm in his hand, a constant reminder of the family he had found on Verdun. He knew that wherever his journeys took him, he would always have a home here, waiting for him with open arms. Growing friendship. Captain John Branson returned to his life as a soldier, but his heart kept drawing him back to Verdun. Weeks turned into months, and between missions, he found himself thinking more and more about the peaceful village, the gentle Xyrians, and the warmth he felt when he was among them. One quiet evening, after a particularly intense mission, John finally decided to use the pendant Xyra had given him. He held it in his hand, focusing on the memories of Verdun. The pendant felt warm, and within moments, he found himself transported back to the edge of the Xyrian village. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the village, and the familiar sights and sounds of Verdun brought an instant feeling of peace. A few Xyrians spotted him, their eyes widening with joy. They ran to him, their voices full of excitement, calling to each other. "Captain John has returned." Xyra arrived, her eyes bright with surprise and happiness. "Captain John, you've come back." She greeted him warmly. "We didn't expect you so soon." John smiled, feeling truly at home. "I missed all of you," he admitted, looking around at the familiar faces. "It's been a busy few months, and I needed to come back and see my friends." The villagers led him to the center of the village, where a group quickly set up a small celebration. They shared a simple meal, laughing and talking under the stars. John listened as they shared stories of their everyday lives, small challenges they'd faced, and joyful moments they'd experienced. After the meal, Xyra invited John to walk with her through the forest near the village. As they strolled through the trees, John felt a sense of calm he rarely found anywhere else. "Captain, you seem different from when you first arrived," Xyra observed, her voice thoughtful. "You have seen many places, yet you return here." John nodded, glancing at her. "I've been to many worlds, yes, but there's something special about Verdun and its people. You've shown me kindness without expecting anything in return. It feels like family." Zira smiled gently. "We feel the same about you, Captain. You have become a part of us. The children look up to you, and the villagers feel safer knowing you are near, even if just in spirit." They continued their walk, talking about life, culture, and the strange differences between humans and Zirians. John found it easy to talk to Zira. She listened deeply, with genuine interest and understanding. In turn, he learned more about Zirian values and beliefs, which focused on harmony with nature and living a life of gratitude. As they returned to the village, a group of young Zirians ran up, eager to spend time with John. They pulled him into their playful activities, showing him the games they'd invented since he last visited. John joined them, laughing and playing, feeling a rare lightness in his heart. One young boy named Luris shyly approached him, holding a small wooden carving. It was a little figure, carved in the shape of a human, specifically in the shape of John himself. Luris blushed and handed it to him. "I made this for you, Captain John. It's you. I hope it looks okay." John took the small carving, turning it over in his hand. The details were surprisingly accurate, with the boy having captured his uniform and even his expression. "Laris, this is incredible," John said, truly touched. "Thank you." Laris grinned, clearly pleased. "I want to be brave like you someday, Captain John." John knelt down to look Laris in the eyes. "You already are, Laris. Being brave doesn't mean never being afraid. It means doing the right thing, even when you're scared." Laris nodded seriously, holding on to John's words. The other children crowded around, asking him questions about space, about Earth, and about the adventures he'd had. John answered each one, enjoying their curiosity and innocence. As the night wore on, the children grew sleepy and returned to their homes. John sat by the village fire with Zira, feeling the comfortable silence between them. "We are grateful for your friendship, Captain John," Zira said softly. "You have given us hope and strength just by being here." John looked at her, understanding the depth of her words. "And you've given me something I didn't know I needed, a place to belong." Zira nodded, her eyes reflecting the warm firelight. "You will always have a place here, Captain. No matter where you go, we will keep you in our hearts." For the first time in a long while, John felt truly at peace. He had spent so much of his life fighting, constantly moving from one mission to the next, with little time to form meaningful connections. Yet here, on Verdun, he had found a bond that felt unbreakable. As the fire crackled softly, John leaned back, gazing up at the stars. He knew he couldn't stay on Verdun forever, but he also knew that this friendship would stay with him, a quiet strength that would carry him through the challenges ahead. And in that moment, surrounded by the gentle night, the growing bond between him and the Zirians felt as bright and lasting as the stars above. The final gift. Captain John Branson had been visiting Verdun for months now, and with each trip, his bond with the Zirians grew deeper. The villagers had come to know him as more than just a visitor or a soldier. To them, he was family. But as much as John enjoyed his time on Verdun, the responsibilities of his work as a captain still called to him. He had come to realize that no matter how much he wished to stay, his duty was to protect others across the galaxy. But there was one last thing he had to do before he left. Zira had hinted at something special, a final gift for him. John stood at the edge of the village, looking out over the rolling hills as the sun began to set. It had been a beautiful day, and as he breathed in the cool air, he felt a sense of peace he had never known before. The gentle rustling of the trees and the distant sounds of the village echoed in his ears. Zira approached him quietly, as always, her presence both calming and warm. She carried something small, wrapped carefully in soft cloth. "Captain," she said softly, her voice holding an air of both excitement and sadness, "before you leave, we wish to give you something, a final gift from us." John turned to face her, his curiosity piqued. "What is it?" Zira smiled, a quiet sadness in her eyes. "It is something to remember us by, something that will always keep you close to us, no matter how far you go." She gently unwrapped the cloth, revealing a small, polished stone. It was a deep, vibrant blue, shimmering with a light of its own. It was unlike anything John had ever seen. The stone was smooth, but with an inner energy that seemed to pulse gently. "This is the heart of Verdun," Zira explained. "It is a gift given to those who have become a part of our world, someone who has truly earned our trust and respect. It is said that the stone will always guide you back to us, no matter where you are in the universe. It is our final way of keeping you close." John took the stone from her hands, feeling its warmth. He could sense the deep significance it held. This was more than just a gift. It was a piece of their world, a bond that would tie him to Verdun forever. He could hardly believe the gesture. "Thank you, Zira," John said, his voice thick with emotion. "This means more to me than you know. I'll carry it with me always." Zira nodded, her eyes glistening in the fading light. "It is a gift of friendship, Captain. It will always remind you of us, and of the bond we share." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the village in a soft golden glow, John placed the heart of Verdun into a small pouch he carried. He tucked it safely into his jacket, feeling its presence like a quiet promise. The villagers had gathered once more around the fire, and Zira led John back to the center. This time, the atmosphere was different. There was no grand feast or celebration, just a peaceful gathering of friends who understood the nature of goodbyes. John took his place by the fire, surrounded by the Zirians, their faces filled with both warmth and sorrow. It was clear that they, too, felt the sadness of his departure, but they respected his need to continue his work. For a long while, no one spoke. They simply sat together in silence, watching the flames dance in the cool evening air. Finally, Zira spoke again, her voice soft but firm. "Captain, we will miss you, but we know that your heart will always be with us, even if you are far away. And when you need to return, the heart of Verdun will guide you home." John smiled, his heart full. "I won't forget you. I promise." The night passed slowly, the fire crackling softly, as everyone savored the quiet moments. The children gathered around John once more, asking him about his travels and the stars. He told them stories of the galaxy, of strange worlds, daring adventures, and brave people. But as he spoke, his thoughts kept returning to the heart of Verdun, and the promise it held. Later, as the stars twinkled above, Zira stood and motioned for the others to follow. "It's time," she said. "The ship is ready to leave." John rose to his feet, feeling the weight of the moment. He had to go. It was his duty, and the galaxy was waiting. But Verdun had become more than just another stop on his journey. It had become a home, a place where he had found friendship, acceptance, and peace. As John walked toward his ship, Zira fell into step beside him. "We hope you will come back soon, Captain," she said quietly. "And if not, know that our hearts will always be open to you." John stopped for a moment, turning to face her. The villagers stood behind her, their eyes filled with the same warmth and sincerity he had come to cherish. "I'll be back," John promised. "Whenever I can, I'll return, and I'll carry Verdun with me, always." With a final nod, he boarded his ship. The engines hummed to life, and as the ship rose into the sky, John looked down at the small glowing village below. The Zirians had given him more than a gift. They had given him a place in their hearts. As the stars stretched out before him, John felt the heart of Verdun beating quietly within him, and he knew that no matter how far he traveled, Verdun would always be his home. A warm goodbye. The ship hovered above the village of Verdun, the stars reflecting in its polished surface. Captain John Branson stood at the window, gazing down at the peaceful world he had come to love. The sun had just risen, casting soft golden light across the lush green hills. It was a beautiful sight, one that would remain in his heart long after he had left. Today was the day John had to say goodbye. His mission called him back to the far corners of the galaxy, but as he stood there, staring out into the distance, he couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. Verdun had become more than just another stop on his journey. It had become a home. The Xerians, their kindness, their culture, it all had become a part of him. Zira's words echoed in his mind. When you leave, it will not be the end. You are always welcome here. John smiled softly to himself, taking one last look at the village below. He felt the warmth of the heart of Verdun against his chest. It was still tucked safely inside the pouch, a reminder that he would always have a connection to this place, no matter how far away he traveled. The door to the ship's cockpit slid open, and a soft voice called out from behind him. "Captain, it's time." It was Zira. She had come to say her final farewell. John turned, finding her standing in the doorway, her eyes gentle yet filled with emotion. "Zira," he greeted her, his voice thick with gratitude. "I didn't expect you to come all the way up here." Zira smiled softly. "I wanted to see you off. You have become like family to us. It wouldn't feel right to let you leave without saying goodbye." John nodded, his heart swelling with affection. "I'm going to miss you, Zira. All of you. You've made me feel more welcome than I ever thought possible." She stepped closer, her eyes meeting his with a deep, knowing look. "We are glad to have had you here, Captain. But remember, this is not goodbye forever. You always have a place on Verdun." He took a step forward, his hand reaching out to hers. The touch was simple but filled with meaning. "Thank you, Zira. I promise. I'll come back. I won't forget you." Her smile widened, but there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. "And we will wait for you. Don't forget the heart of Verdun. It will always guide you home." John nodded, clutching the small stone in his pouch, the warmth of it reminding him that he would always have a connection to this world. "I won't forget." Zira stepped back, taking a deep breath. "You should go now. The village will be waiting to hear of your safe travels." With a final lingering look at her, John turned toward the cockpit. The ship's engines hummed softly, ready to take him back to the galaxy's farthest reaches. But he knew that no matter how many worlds he visited, a part of him would always remain here, on Verdun. The ship lifted off the ground slowly, the village growing smaller as he ascended. Below, the Xerians waved up at him, their hands raised in a sign of farewell. John's heart ached a little, but he kept his eyes focused on the horizon ahead, knowing that one day he would return. As the ship rose into the sky, the familiar blue of Verdun slowly faded into the distance. John glanced out of the window one last time, the heart of Verdun pressing gently against his chest. He could feel its warmth, and with it, the promise of his return. It wasn't just a goodbye, it was a promise, one of friendship, of love, and of the unspoken bond between him and the Xerians. They had shown him kindness, and he had learned from them in ways he never thought possible. They had given him a sense of belonging that he had long since given up searching for in the vastness of the galaxy. As the ship sailed through the stars, John smiled to himself. His heart was full, not of sadness, but of hope. Hope for the future. Hope that no matter how far apart they were, he and the Xerians would always share a bond that distance could never break. And with that thought, John Branson sailed onward, knowing that Verdun would always be there for him, no matter where the stars led him. The warmth of the village, the laughter of the children, the kindness of Zira, they would stay with him, guiding him like the heart of Verdun itself, keeping him strong as he traveled across the galaxy. It wasn't the end. It was just another chapter in a story that was far from finished. And no matter how many goodbyes he had to say, John knew that the memories of Verdun would never fade. They would stay with him, in his heart, forever.